and welcome to Red Hills Horse Trials. I'm your host, Chris Stafford, and over the next 3 days we're going to see dressage, cross-country and show jumping, part of the World Cup series of qualifiers, 2 of which are held in this country. The horse trials here at Red Hills takes place at the Eleanor Clapp Phipps Park, which is just north of Tallahassee in Florida. Almost 200 horses took part in the 8 divisions from preliminary to advanced in this year's event, which featured an eventing World Cup qualifier, a new series of competitions taking place around the world. 6 events will be held this year, leading up to the final in France in October. The format for the World Cup is the same that will be used in the 2004 Olympic Games. There were 33 starters in the Red Hills qualifier over 3 days of competition, among them Olympic and world champions. The prize fund, $10,000. Some 120 acres within the Eleanor Clapp Phipps Park is transformed into a temporary village for the event. It takes a small army of volunteers to ensure that everything is in place and operating with military precision. For many of those volunteers, it's the closest they ever come to horses. Given the heavy rain that fell on Dressage Day, the appropriately named Drizzle was the first ride of the day for Pennsylvania-based Australian Philip Dutton. The 14-year-old thoroughbred gelding, owned by August Vettorino, won the North American Below Classic in North Georgia in 2001, and in 2002 claimed the title at Fair Hill International Horse Trials in Maryland. Their test included some fluent and flexible movements to earn a score of 46.5 penalties, which put them in 4th place after the dressage. Conditions were no less favourable for Philip's second ride, Hannigan. The 10-year-old gelding finished 14th at Burghley Horse Trials in England 2 years ago. Philip is aiming to travel back to England to ride in the prestigious Badminton Horse Trials this May. In the skillful hands of a double Olympic gold medalist, Hannigan was more than able to cope with the muddy conditions. They had set the pace with a score of 43.8. Darren Chacha and his World Games partner in Jerez last year, RG Renegade, gave notice to Philip Dutton with a test of accuracy and fluency. They proved their resilience to wet conditions when they endured torrential rain on the cross-country phase of the Kentucky 3-day event last year. The sloppy conditions at Red Hills proved no problem for them. Their test was good enough to catch the leaders with a score of 43.8. Heidi White and the 10-year-old thoroughbred gelding Northern Spy Heidi White showed their consistency in the dressage arena with a very nice test to score in the 40s. As the rain stayed away, the footing improved towards the end of the day, and the last competitor was Darren Chacha on the 10-year-old Trakehner stallion, Windfall. This combination finished 5th at the Fair Hill Horse Trials last year. They were clearly well prepared for this important start to the season and produced a polished performance to put them in 3rd place with a score of 44.10. At the end of the dressage phase, it was RG Renegade who held the lead jointly with Philip Dutton aboard Hannigan. Darren explained how his horse handled the conditions.
It started out, the warm-up is actually a bigger issue than the arena, so that affects the quality of the ride. My first ride was a young horse, so you have a different goal for every horse that you have. He's a 7-year-old just stepping up to this level, so although he's not on top of the leaderboard, I'm quite pleased with his performance today. The next horse I rode was RG Renegade, which was my World Games horse, so we have different expectations for him.
This is the first ride in a World Cup qualifier for these riders, and Darren is enthusiastic about the new competition.
I think it's wonderful. It's a great way to be able to showcase our sport and allow the top horses to really get the attention they deserve.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back with the cross-country phase at the Red Hills Horse Trials. Welcome back to the Red Hills Horse Trials. Darren describes the 31 obstacles designed by Mark Phillips as he takes us around the course.
The first jump is generally designed just to be a nice get-you-going, rounded face jump. 2 is also a very forgiving flower stand type jump, as was 3. And then the course designer asked the first question at 4, which is a skinny built on a hillside. And the next question, which is a vertical on an angle after a sharp turn to a very skinny mushroom. Then gallop right up to the first set of double corners, which rides quite snug. Then you have a bit of a breather to a big oxer, which rides quite well. And then once again, a pretty interesting question, which is a set of rails bounced to a ditch, 1 stride to a roll top. The next jump is a big picnic table.
And clear there. Heading on down the hill to the...
Make a right-hand turn to the ditch and wall, to a left-hand turn over a very wide flower stand, over yet again another ditch and brush, and now you have a very important loop to set up for the first water, which is quite an eyeful, especially off the turn. The horses really don't have but a second or two to see what's in front of them before you approach the jump. So it's a bounce in, 3 or 4 strides across the water, a bank up, and a bounce out over a pretty maximum jump there. Immediately after, there's another flower stand type jump, which gets you going again. gallop around the turn over the pheasant feeder, which sets you up for the next approach to the second water. It's a downhill approach to quite a large jump into the water, to a maximum or fairly maximum bank, to a bounce combination. Then you can keep your momentum to an oxer uphill. Bending to a fairly forgiving filler jump down to the corners, which I think proved to be one of the very difficult questions today. Then we had another round the turn to another oxer on your way to a very skinny jump in between some trees, and come to the bounce, which this year they added a jump in front of the bounce. After that, you've got a bench on the way home, and then the barn, and then the table in the darkness, to quite a tight turn and a bank ditch uphill combination, one stride over a lobster trap, and then the last jump home. And the finish flags are pretty close, so you couldn't make up much speed, but pretty much your time was your time when you got to the second last sets.
Philip Dutton wasted no time with Nova Top.
Nova Top and Philip Dutton. Through the Jekyll and Hyde corner. Race down.
Philip Dutton comes to the tummy tickler on Nova Top.
With the tummy tickler. Philip Dutton with Nova Top. Through the Devil's Triangle and get straight down and then
and takes the windmill pond in his stride before heading down the hill. There's no interruption to their rhythm as they go the most direct route through the second water.
And retaining back to 28, race down the fifth. We have two left to start now. We've got Charlotte Connor and
They returned the fastest time of the day to finish on 54.75. Virginian Holly Hepp, riding the 12-year-old Lester Piggott, was clearly on a mission. They saw a perfect stride coming into the Fort St. Louis fence.
Alrighty. Let's see. You want to keep people out of the cold area pretty much.
Their jumping round promoted them from 24th place after the dressage to finish the cross-country in 10th on a score of 84.65.
Very, very excited. It was a whole lot of course out there. It was beautifully built, well constructed, but a serious track. And he went out there and handled it absolutely brilliantly. The course rode beautifully, and we just had to stick to our game plan. You know, the terrain was good. It was hilly. It was twisty-turny. They threw absolutely every single type of obstacle at you, but it all rode great. But I mean, I think this was a great run for the riders doing the major shows this year, because it was an eye-opener, and it made you focus and pointed out any weaknesses you might have.
Darren's other ride, Windfall, was eager to get on with the job as they came to the double of callers early on the course.
Darren Churchill and Windfall over the giant's table. Steps on the gas after 11. Over Port St. Louis. Moving on within the time. Darren Churchill over the Tommy Tickler at 14.
Quick reminder with his whip keeps Windfall concentrating as they take the direct route through the water at the windmill pond.
Heading down the hill to the Jamaica Bar at 17.
Darren knows that the time is tight, and once again Windfall gets a reminder to stay focused as they come into St. Mark's Lighthouse fence. The stallion clearly gets the message as he makes it through the water in 3 strides instead of 4.
Up the hill to 55 on top. Windfall and Darren Churchill.
Darren was clearly pleased with all his horses today.
It was a great go out there. I was a little concerned about some of the footing. I had an earlier go on a young horse that we kind of, as I say, felt our way around a little bit. But the other 2 horses are pretty seasoned campaigners. I have good relationships with them, and I really went out there to go for it. And they rose to the occasion. I had great rounds. I'm thrilled.
Somewhat surprisingly, Windfall's performance overshadowed his stable companion, RG Renegade.
I didn't make the time. It's really going to be the fastest of the rounds. I don't think the time is actually doable. And again, having a horse that can make the turns, the rideability factor, a horse that can land running to the next jump in this particular kind of course is just a little different type. So he likes to keep going. He requires a pretty positive ride. So I don't always say I'm going out there to go for it with him, but he's one of those horses that I have to go out there pretty determined to get it done, or I best not start.
Olympian Karen O'Connor riding Regal Scott make their way to the Jekyll and Hyde corners. This event is part of Regal Scott's preparation for badminton horse trials in England in May.
at the scoring trailer, please, technical delegate, scoring trailer, by admin.
A clear round and just 30 time penalties on the cross country put them in 7th place with a score of 78.
Northern spine to the Jekyll and Hyde corner, and over. Heading towards San Louis now in Northern spine, number 91. They're clear there.
Heidi White at the Windmill Pond on Northern Spy.
Now over 4, West Lord, by UKY LLC.
Clear round with the 4th fastest time was good enough for them to climb up 3 places by the end of the day. It was just what she'd hoped for.
Thrilled, actually. This is his first kind of big run back for the year, and it was a big enough track, and there's lots of questions, and he answered every one of them just great. We did, we were a little bit slow, but the turns are kind of hard, but he just jumped some of the jumps beautifully, and the combinations, he was just spot on and looking for the next one, and he just felt fantastic.
She was clearly optimistic about her chances in the final show jumping phase.
He show jumps great if I can keep myself together. He's a good show jumper as long as I control the nerves and handle it. We've been practicing it a lot, so let's hope this year will be a little bit better, and we'll show jump, and we'll see tomorrow.
Olympic veteran Bruce Davidson showed his remarkable recovery from a very bad fall last year.
up in Massachusetts, had a very bad fall for 7 bones in his body, and actually 4 horses
Riding Little Tricky, they climbed from 19th place after the dressage to finish the cross-country in 8th place with a clear jumping round. Philip Dutton and I'm So Bright at fence 15. Philip has several top horses in his barn. He was the leading rider last year in the US Eventing Association's rankings. Philip's ride on the joint dressage leader Hannigan unfortunately came to an abrupt end with an uncharacteristic fall on the cross country.
Hannigan was a big surprise. We started out quite quick, and the course is not that challenging at the beginning, and I had a sort of a plan to sort of go quite quick early because he's a big horse. It's a lot of turning for him, and so I wanted to make a little bit of time up early. And we got to the 4th fence, and it was a little vertical, and I don't think he gave it quite as much respect, or maybe I didn't as well, and he sort of flipped over there, and so that was very disappointing. But the horse is fine, and he'll live to hopefully come out of it and improve from there, and hopefully I'll improve. My last ride, Nova Top, went very well. He seems to get better and better. I've only had him about a year now, and so he's headed towards Foxhall. He hasn't done a 3-star yet, so we're very excited. He was about 20 seconds over the time, I think, so hopefully he'll stay up the ladder there somewhere.
At the end of the day, it was Nova Top who headed the leaderboard, with Philip Dutton on a score of 54.75. Darren Chacher and Windfall, with 59.7 penalties, moved up 1 place into 2nd. Heidi White finished the day in 4th place on Northern Spy, and the joint overnight leaders, Darren and RG Renegade, slipped down into 5th place. Stay tuned, we'll be right back with the final show jumping phase in this World Cup qualifier at the Red Hills Horse Trials. Welcome back to the Red Hills Horse Trials and the conclusion of the World Cup qualifier. An important part of this sport is the welfare of the horse. There are 2 veterinary inspections during the competition to determine that the horse is fit to compete. The rain persisted and made conditions very challenging for horses and riders. Organisers Sally Orsley and Sylvia Oakes were undaunted by the adverse weather, knowing that all their careful planning would prevail and they could rely on the many volunteers.
We have, I would say, at least 500 volunteers. We have volunteers from the people who pick up garbage to the people who are, running our officials around and doing the food. We just have a wonderful team and a wonderful spirit of enthusiastic, dedicated people, and we cannot do it without these people.
Sally and Sylvia clearly enjoy their roles.
It's all fun. I think it's all fun for us, and we just do what needs doing at the time, and it sort of works out.
I look forward to seeing all the organization come together. And things work like they're supposed to. It's very pleasant.
Number 94, RG Renegade, rode by Colleen Hofstetter and ridden by Darren Chacha. He was tied for first after the dressage with 43.8 penalties, had 25.6 time penalties on the cross country, dropped him down to 5th place with 69.4 for the 2 days.
Darren Chatter tripped up at the double on RG Renegade and finished the day with 77.4 penalties in 5th place. Heidi White had a fence in hand on Northern Spy.
By Heidi White from Unionville, Pennsylvania. She was in 7th place after the dressage with 48 penalties, had 16.4 time penalties on the cross country. Now in 4th place with 64.4. And she has a rail in hand.
She had no trouble maintaining her 4th place with an immaculate clear round, earning them 64.4 penalties.
Keeping them in 4th place.
Philip Dutton followed Darren into the arena on I'm So Bright.
And in the arena now, number 93, I'm So Bright and Philip Dutton. Here with his 2nd ride, I'm So Bright owned by Nina Gardner. Philip was 15th with I'm So Bright after the dressage with 49.95 penalties and 11.6 time penalties on the cross country has moved them up to third place now with 61.55 penalties today.
And a faultless round ensured they held on to their third place to finish on a score of 61.55.
Win 4.
The same one-fence margin separated Darren on win 4 and Philip with Nova top, as these two battled it out for final honours.
1 penalties, had 15.6 time penalties on the cross country, has moved him into second place with a two-day total of 59.7. And he just has a rail in hand. No, correction, he does not have a rail in hand. So once again we're giving ribbons to 10. We'll need the 10 back for awards, please.
Careful ride by Darren on win 4 ensured them of their second place and put the pressure on the double Olympic gold medalist.
Owned by Shannon Stimpson and ridden once again by Philip Dutton from Australia. They were fifth after dressage with 46.35 penalties, 8.4 time penalties on the cross country has put them into the lead with 54.75. Just has a rail in hand.
Skillful riding in soggy conditions by Philip and Novatop produced the clear round that was needed to win this World Cup qualifier. Stay tuned, we'll be right back. Congratulations, Phil Dutton, the winner here of the first World Cup qualifier of the year, but not an easy day's competition.
No, certainly the weather played its part, as it has all weekend, and it wasn't easy jumping out there, and so I'm fortunate that both my horses tried very hard, and I ended up in the lead.
But you had some tough opposition here. You only had a rail in hand over Darren, and how did that feel? Because you had to split your two rides being so close together at the end of the day.
Right. Well, it's an advantage to have a couple of horses because you get to know how it's riding. I thought it was getting harder to jump out there as the going got a bit deeper. I witnessed Darren's beautiful round, so I did know that I had to go in there and not make a mistake. But I'm pretty confident on this horse. He's a very, very careful horse. So basically my job is just to get him there, and I know he's going to then jump clean. So.
Darren was hoping that his clear round on Winfield would put some pressure on Philip.
As Philip said, I was fortunate enough to have some other horses in the division, so you got a feel for how the course was riding. That horse is a pretty special jumper, so I feel pretty confident on him and comfortable, so I was hoping to put a little pressure on him, but he didn't buckle.
Philip was excited about the prospect of riding in the World Cup final in France in October, and there's no doubt, with so many horses to choose from, that this popular Australian will be tough to beat.
Yeah, I'd love to go to France. Obviously the Olympics are going to be this format now, so as riders and horses we have to sort of concentrate on this now and put a lot of emphasis on it and try to learn and try to get better at it. So yeah, I'd love to get there. So hopefully, it's a long way off, but we'll be aiming for that.
Despite the damp conditions here this weekend, we've seen some great riding. I hope you'll join us again when we bring you more eventing from the Foxhall Cup.